This is Wide Angle. I am Oral Butt, greeting all viewers. This is the second of our series on Bhagat Singh. Incidentally, just a few days back, we had an episode in the Delhi Assembly where the Chief Minister Rekha Gupta put forth in her speech uh, an inane statement that Shahid Bhagat Singh had thrown the bomb in the Central Assembly to awaken Congress government. That only shows how great is the ignorance of our leaders and rulers about our freedom struggle. Now, some people may think that the Honorable Chief Minister of New Delhi is not very educated. That's not true. She holds as many as 4 degrees. She has a graduate degree, she has a postgraduate degree, she has a business management degree, she possesses a degree in law, and most of these have been earned from Delhi University. Given this level of education and comparing it to the crass ignorance regarding our freedom struggle against the heroes whom we all revere, it is only meet that we should continue this program to educate ourselves, to know what the freedom struggle stood for, what the revolutionaries aspired to, and what was the general idea of India, which was to be brought about, and for which those martyrs, the other people, laid down their lives and struggled almost all their lives. So, in this episode, we will discuss about this very particular instance, the bomb thrown in the Central Assembly. Shahid Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Sukhdev were prosecuted in the so-called Lahore conspiracy case. The prosecution was in fact for 2 cases. One was against the assassination of J.P. Saunders, and another was for the bomb. General B.M. Cole, an ex-chief of the army staff of Free India, writes in his autobiography, The Untold Story, that he was a student at that time in 1929, and soon after the martyrdom of Lala Lajpat Rai, a British officer who was believed to have been the one who had killed Lala Lajpat Rai during a protest against the Simon Commission in Lahore by this police officer, and they shot him dead. But unfortunately, it was the wrong officer. It was Paul Scott, but they wrongly shot down J.P. Saunders. And that case also was going on. And as B.M. Cole tells in his autobiography, it was believed that Bhagat Singh had fired the fatal bullet, but nobody knew and he was not apprehended. Then he says on pages 11 to 13 of his autobiography The untold story that it was in the assembly that Bhagat Singh and Bhakteshwar Das threw first the leaflets into the assembly and then they threw bombs. After the bombs were thrown into the assembly, surrendered themselves to highlight the fact that they had thrown the bombs only to awaken the British Empire to the needs and aspirations of India, and that they were not, the bombs were not aimed at harming anybody. During the investigation, the police claimed the recovery of a pistol, injuries to people, and other intents for throwing the bomb. To clarify this, Bhagat Singh and Bhakteshwar Das, they issued a statement. Today, we will read that statement out and see what the revolutionaries, what the martyrs of India, what the people who had laid down their lives so that India could live freely, live as per her spirit. We will bring those, that statement of theirs, which is a historical document in itself, to all of you with the view that people would know, that we will understand, and that we would not misinterpret or mutilate the history of our freedom struggle. We are reading out the statement. I will share the screen so that anybody who wants to read it for himself to verify the facts, he can also view it. And this is the statement which was issued by Bhagat Singh and Batukeshwar Dutt after they threw bombs in the Central Assembly Hall. The statement was issued on 6th of June 1929. The statement goes, "We stand charged with certain offenses, and at this stage, it is but right that we must explain our conduct. In this connection, the following questions arise. Were the bombs thrown into the chamber, and if so, why? Is the charge as framed by the lower court correct or otherwise?" To the first half of the first question, our reply is in the affirmative. But since some of the so-called eyewitnesses have perjured themselves, and since we are not denying our liability to that extent, let our statement about them be judged for what is worth. By the way of an illustration, we may point out that the evidence of Sergeant Terry regarding the seizure of the pistol from one of us is a deliberate falsehood, for neither of us had the pistol at the time we gave ourselves up. We shall be reading only the highlighted portions, and people who are interested, they can go through the rest of it. The first point that's made in this statement was that the bombs were directed against British Raj. In reply to the next half of the question, we are constrained to go into some detail to offer a full and frank explanation of our motive and the circumstances leading up to what has now become a historic event. When we were told by some of the police officers who visited us in jail that Lord Irwin, in his address to the joint session of the two houses, described the event as an attack directed against no individual but against an institution itself, we readily recognized that the true significance of the incident had been correctly appreciated. We are next to none in our love for humanity. Far from having any malice against any individual, we hold human life sacred beyond words. We are neither perpetrators of dastardly outrages and therefore a disgrace to the country, as the pseudo-socialist Devan Chamanlal is reported to have described us, nor are we lunatics as the Tribune of Lahore and some others have it believed. Exposing hypocrisy. We humbly claim to be no more than serious students of history and conscious of our country and her aspirations. We despise hypocrisy. Our practical protest was against the institution which, since its birth, has eminently helped to display not only its worthlessness, but its far reaching power for mischief. The more we have been convinced that it exists only to demonstrate to the world India's humiliation and helplessness, and it symbolizes the overriding domination of an irresponsible and autocratic rule. Time and again, the national demand has been pressed by the people's representatives only to find the waste paper basket as its final destination. Parliament a hollow show. Solomon resolutions passed by the House have been contemptuously trampled underfoot on the floor of the so-called Indian Parliament. A resolution regarding the repeal of the repressive and arbitrary measures have been treated with sublime contempt, and the government measures and proposals rejected as unacceptable by the elected members of the legislatures have been restored by mere stroke of the pen. In short, we have utterly failed to find any justification for the existence of an institution which, despite all its pomp and splendor, organized with the hard earned money of the sweating millions of India, is only a hollow show and a mischievous make believe. Millions deprived of their primary right. When the introduction of the Trade Disputes Bill brought us into the Assembly to watch its progress, the course of the debate only served to confirm our conviction that the laboring millions of India had nothing to expect from an institution that stood as a menacing monument to the strangling of the exploiters of the serfdom of the helpless laborers. None who has felt like us for the dumb-driven drudges of laborers could possibly witness this spectacle with equanimity. Bomb needed to awaken England. Constantly bearing in mind the words of late Mr. S.R. Das, once law member of the Governor General's Executive Council, which appeared in the famous letter he had addressed to his son to the effect that bomb was necessary to awaken England from her dreams, we dropped the bomb on the floor of the assembly chamber to register our protest on behalf of those who had no other means left to give expression to their heartrending agony. Our sole purpose was to make the deaf hear and give the heedless a timely warning. Others have as keenly felt as we have done, and from under the seeming stillness of the sea of Indian humanity, a veritable storm is about to break out. We have only hoisted the danger signal to warn those who are speeding along without heeding the grave dangers ahead. Legitimate cause has a moral justification. We have used the expression utopian non-violence in the foregoing paragraph, which requires some explanation. Force, when aggressively applied, is violence and is therefore morally unjustifiable. But when it is used in the furtherance of a legitimate cause, it has a moral justification. As both the alien government and the Indian public leaders appear to have shut their eyes to the existence of this movement, we felt our duty to sound a warning where it could not go unheard. We have so far dealt with the motive behind the incident in the question, and now we must define the extent of our intention. This is not against any person. We bore no personal grudge or malice against any one of those who received slight injuries or against any other person in the assembly. And still we admit having deliberately thrown the bombs into the assembly, calibrated for minimal damage. Despite the evidence of the government expert, the bombs that were thrown in the assembly chamber resulted in slight damage to an empty bench and some slight aberrations in less than half a dozen cases. While the government scientists and experts have ascribed this result to a miracle, we see nothing but precisely scientific process in all this incident. Firstly, the two bombs exploded in vacant spaces within the wooden barriers of the desks and benches. Secondly, even those who were within 2 feet of the explosion, for instance, Mr. P. Rao, Mr. Shankar Ragad, Sir George Schuster, and were either not hurt or only slightly scratched. Again, had they been loaded with some other high explosive with a charge of destructive pellets or darts, they would have sufficed to white out a majority of the members of Legislative Assembly. Still again, we could have flung them in the official box, which was occupied by some notable persons. And finally, we could have ambushed Sir John Simon, whose luckless commission was loathed by all responsible people and who was sitting in the president's gallery at the time. All these things, however, were beyond our intention, and bombs did no more than they were designed to do, and the miracle consisted in no more than the deliberate aim which landed them in the safe places. We then deliberately offered ourselves to bear the penalty for what we had done and to let the imperialist exploiters know that by crushing individuals, they cannot kill ideas. Can ordnance and safety bills snuff out the flames of freedom in India? Conspiracy cases, trumped up to or discovered, and the incarceration of all young men who cherish the vision of a great ideal cannot check the march of revolution. But a timely warning, if not unheeded, can help to prevent loss of life and general suffering. We took it upon ourselves to provide this warning, and our duty is done. Revolution is not strife or vendetta. Revolution does not necessarily involve sanguinary strife, nor is there any place in it for individual vendetta. It is not the cult of bomb and the pistol. By revolution, we mean that the present order of things, which is based on manifest injustice, must change. Producers or laborers, in spite of being the most necessary element of the society, are robbed by their exploiters of the fruits of their labor and deprived of their elementary rights. The peasant who grows corn for all starves with his family. The weaver who supplies the world market with textile fabrics has not enough to cover his own and his children's bodies. Masons, smiths, and carpenters who raise significant palaces live like pariahs in the slums. The capitalists and exploiters, the parasites of the society, squander millions on their whims. These terrible inequalities and forced disparity of chances are bound to lead to chaos. This state of affairs cannot last long, and it is obvious that the present order of society in merrymaking is on the brink of a volcano. The, the whole edifice of civilization, if not saved in time, shall crumble. A radical change, therefore, is necessary, and it is the duty of those who realize it to reorganize society on socialistic basis. Unless this thing is done and the exploitation of man by man and of nations by nations is brought to an end, suffering and carnage with which humanity is threatened today cannot be prevented. All talk of ending war and ushering in an era of universal peace is undisguised hypocrisy. If, however, it goes unheeded and the present system of government continues to be an impediment in the way of the natural forces that are swelling up, a grim struggle will ensue involving the overthrow of all obstacles. Revolution is an inalienable right of mankind. Freedom is an imperishable birthright of all. Labor is the real sustainer of society, the sovereignty of the ultimate destiny of the workers. For those ideals and for this faith, we shall welcome any suffering to which we may be condemned. At the altar of this revolution, we have brought our youth as an incense, for no sacrifice is too great for so magnificent a cause. We are content. We await with the advent of revolution. Long live the revolution. That is the statement which was made by Bhagat Singh and Batukeshwar Das after having thrown the bomb in the assembly to awaken the dead consciences. It is the morality, the legitimacy, the truth, the ideal that inspired these great revolutionaries, and we have to bow to them. We are forced to bow to them every time we go through the ideals they cherished, the principles they upheld, and the great sacrifices they made. Thank you very much.